Okay, here's one on development measures, which I've had a request for. So we start with kind of what is development. You'll see a number of phrases, on our board talking about the difference between. Well, sorry, talking about development. Sometimes you'll see economic development, and sometimes you'll see human development. I think the key point is that these, as far as we're concerned, are the same thing. And what you've got to do is to be very clear, that you don't conflate those with economic growth. So economic growth, obviously, is a sustained increase in real GDP. So it's just the value of output and income is rising every year. Economic development is broader than that. So what is economic development? There are lots of different views on this. So when we say what is economic development, there's a guy called Amartya Sen who wrote a book called Development as Freedom, and what he says is that development really is about the ability to make choices. If you can make choices in your life, then what that'll tend to mean, is that there'll be an increase in your living standards. So when we're looking at economic development, we're saying it's really a kind of sustained increase in living standards over time. Hence, you're developing. So what's likely to feed into high living standards, which in turn tend to come with choices. There's a guy called Tadaro, again, who's a development economist, and he sees it as there are kind of three pillars on which economic development's going to be based. Income. So if you have high and rising income, you'll be able to afford better housing, better diet, and so on and so forth. Health. Obviously, you won't be able to exercise choice if you're ill or dead. And education, again, so having the ability to read and write, to understand culture and so on, is going to feed into your ability to make choices. At the most basic level, being educated gives you a wider range of choices, for example. You don't just have to work in manual jobs. And those are kind of Tadaro's three pillars. We'd probably want to add some other stuff to that. So your ability to make choices is probably going to be linked to rights to some extent. Access to technology and so on. So you can add other things that you think are going to have an impact on living standards. But essentially, by economic development, we're talking about increase in living standards over time. Framing it in the context of choices is often a good way of going about it, and anchoring it back to Tadaro's three pillars is probably a good way of doing it. But it's not just about those three; there are other things as well.